And we are live and ready when you are, Madam Chair. Okay, I'm calling to order the Soldovia City Council work session, Monday, January 24th at, looks like 4:38 or something like that. Okay. B, we're going to go to discussion topics, quarterly administrative reports. We'll start off with the finance report on page 5. And Jan, is Jan here?
Yep, she's here.
Okay, Jan, do you want to go ahead and give us that report?
Hey, good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. First off, I just want to apologize for a couple of typos in the written report. The numbers should all be good, but apparently I was in a bit too much of a hurry and didn't quite get all the words updated the way I should have. So my apologies for that. Looking at the Amlib statement. So the Amlib account, as you know, previously was just one kind of lump sum. And we just sort of had to keep informal track of what amounts went to which funds and so on. And so we have now divided that out. And so there's one fund that is the permanent fund principal, one fund that reflects the amount of the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act grant, another fund that is in the amount of the Rasmussen Cemetery grant funds, and then the remainder is in the major maintenance and repair funds. One update to the written finance report said that the December statement had not arrived. That did arrive this morning. And so I'm in the process of doing the reconciliations and getting those up to date through the end of December. We are looking at then also taking that major maintenance and repair fund and dividing that up into the individual amounts, for the harbor, for the dock, that type of thing, just so that we can always keep those funds straight and not just have to kind of do the informal process that we were doing before. Looking at the general fund, as you can see, we're on track with projected revenues. We've received 89% of the projected revenues that we planned for the year, which is great news. We do expect that the revenues will slow down in the second half of the year. That's just the pattern that we see from year to year, is that we get the bulk of our tax revenue basically in September, October, December. And then the second half of the year, we don't see as much revenue, but we do feel pretty optimistic that we will meet our revenue projections for the year. So most of that has been through the sales tax and the real property tax. Sales tax, we have exceeded it. I think real property tax, we were at like 99%. So we basically met that. And then real property, but personal property and motor vehicle taxes are more kind of at the midpoint for the year. But those seem to stay a little steadier throughout the year. They're not as front loaded through the fiscal year as the other two are. So we should be in good shape with those as well. In terms of expenditures for the general fund, administration, we're running quite a bit under what we had projected at this point of the year. We're only at 32%. That's good because that is offset by some of the other classes: council, police, fire, EMS, public works, multi-purpose building, etc. But none of them are wildly over, and some of them are over because, again, we've got those front-loaded insurance premiums. And so as we get farther through the year, those insurance premiums that we paid a large chunk of at the beginning of the year, that'll kind of amortize out, and we'll see that balance out. Another thing that is hitting the police right now that is going to balance things out is right now the public safety grant that we got for the new computer and docking station and so on. Those expenses, because that's a reimbursement grant, those expenses at this point have come out of the general fund, credited to the police budget. But then when we do get the reimbursements, that funding will go back into the police budget, and so that'll balance itself out too. So right now it looks like there's a hit there that is a little bit artificial in that one. Let's see, in terms of the special revenue funds, You can see both water and sewer were at 65% of revenues and 45% of the projected budget. So that's good news there. Seem to be on track. The dock special revenue fund, we were in pretty good shape. 61% of our projected revenues and 52% of projected expenditures. We were a little concerned knowing that Q3 we were not going to have a ferry, which of course is the major revenue source for the dock. And now with last week's word to not anticipate the Tuscamina's return until July, which of course is FY23, that is a bigger hit to the dock, unfortunately. So I did a little just kind of forecasting out with planning, I guess, on basically 3 trips from the Kennecott and none from the Tuscamina. We figured that our anticipated revenue is only about another $1,000. That's ferry runs and a little bit of maybe some crane use, etc. And so that would put us at, sorry, I think I do have a typo there. But it is going to put us quite at a shortfall on our revenue. And then I also tried to forecast out what our expenses were. Obviously, we will at least save the expense of paying ferry staff. So that'll be a little bit of a savings, but obviously it's not offset by the revenue we're losing. And I'm anticipating our expenses are going to be about 84% of what we forecast. So that is going to be a hit on the dock special revenue fund. We are hoping that we might actually get 5 Tuscamina, or not, sorry, 5 Kennecott trips rather than 3, but just for the sake of conservative budgeting, I calculated it using 3 trips. On the Harbor and Jackaloff Special Revenue Fund, that's one areas where I've got a typo there, and on boat haul out, most of them say that September billing is not yet included. Obviously, September, October, November, and December billings are included in the revenues. So apologies for that typo. But the 42% and 55%, those are accurate for the special revenue fund. And one other forecast that I did looking at the Harbor and Jackaloff, at the end of February, beginning of March, we're going to bill out for the annual morages. And that's obviously a major source of income for the harbor. And so assuming the same revenue as last year, that would put us without any additional revenues, just the morages would put us at 92% of our forecasted revenue for the year. And so that was good news. Good in terms of the forecast for the budget for the harbor looking forward. And said that would put us at 70% of our budgeted stall rental, but that's actually a little bit low because any of the stall rental that happens through credit card rentals at the harbor, I have those in another income line because it takes some time to get reports from Layla and find the time to actually allocate her credit card revenues into the proper categories. In other words, to give people credit for paying for what they said they paid for. And so I'm not sure if this is entirely clear, but basically that 92% of forecasted revenue does include all the credit card revenues. They just need to be allocated out. And the short way of saying all that is that more than likely that we do forecast that the budget stall rental line item will be much in excess of 70%. I just need to do some allocations there. Boat haul out, obviously that's pretty quiet this time of year, not much happening. We'll see that tick up probably in Q4 as people start coming back. But right now, again, we're at 88% of projected revenues. When we do a lot of boat launches in the spring, we should make up probably the rest of that. And we're doing well in our expenditures, keeping it under, we're right about 47%. In terms of our grants, the SMOLT project, that's a long-term grant that really not much has happened on. We have received permission to change the focus. Originally, this grant was done to do a release of coho salmon smolt into the slough. And what we have found is that there's not really a good commercial source for those cohos. And also that slough is not really a great coho habitat either. And so we did receive permission to change the focus to Chinook salmon, which was great. And that was just a simple administrative change. But in order to do what Fish and Game recommended, which is to put our efforts not towards so much the stocking as toward the marketing of the Chinook fishery in Soldovia, that actually will take a legislative change. And so that is something we've just requested, and we hope will come through, but we're just kind of waiting to see. ARPA funds, obviously there's no action there yet. The senior meals grant expended about 46% of the grant funds. We've received 40% of the projected revenue. Again, this is going to tick up very shortly because I know on the state level, they have requested the payments for Q3. They just haven't come through yet. So we'll see that come up again shortly. Same thing with the borough. We have done our Q2 reporting. That's complete. And so we should be seeing a reimbursement from the borough at some point fairly soon too. And then the highway safety grant, I kind of touched on that earlier. We have expended most of the funds that are going directly toward equipment for that. We've purchased a docking station and then a semi-rugged laptop that can be deployed in the police vehicle, so Clayton doesn't have to do all his reporting in the office. Should give him some other advantages as well in terms of better access to some of the state databases and so on. So most of the work that needs to be done still on that grant is more in-kind things. If part of the grant budget is for the value of the software that the state is donating and so on. And so once again, we've done those purchases. We've submitted that to the state, and we should be seeing reimbursement here fairly soon. And that again, that'll be credited back toward the police department's general fund budget. And that's the main information I have for now. I'm more than open for questions.
Okay, thank you, Jan. And are there any questions? Doesn't look like anybody. Oh, sorry. Doesn't look like anybody has anything. So we'll move on to Chief of Police report on page 9.
Not much here to say. I've put down the stats here showing at the end roughly what we are, and I gave you guys a brief overview. You can read on the different things that happened in each of the different months there for the last quarter. And it looks like with us trying to refer the calls that are non-emergencies back to the troopers and that are outside the city, we're still doing about a third of the calls are still outside the city. So it's staying about the same, but if you guys have any questions, really, I'll let you guys, or any more comments on it.
Yeah, Councilmember Sweat, can I add to Chief Hawkins' report?
Go ahead.
Okay. So also included with the Chief of Police's quarterly report is a bar graph that you haven't seen before in the past. And apologies, similar to what the finance officer was saying, some of our numbers may not match, but just take this at face value in terms of the data that it's presenting to you. And we just wanted to share this with the council because there has been interest in the past in seeing statistics of the types of cases that come through Soldovia. However, there is concern that by presenting this information on a regular basis, it could potentially compromise individuals or cases or families. So I just wanted to show the council that this is data that I receive and I do check it on a regular basis. And if I ever thought that there was something that needed the council's attention, I would consult the police chief as well as present the information to council. So I just wanted to share with you that I do review the information, and this is just a picture of some of the cases we've seen in the last 3 months. So if council ever has any questions, I ask that individual council members come meet with me. I can bring the police chief in and we can go over information. So this is just to show you some of the stats from the last 3 months.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any further questions?
I just have a, Madam Chair, may I?
Go ahead.
I was wondering, Have anybody's talked to you about your presence up at the school? If you've had any feedback from parents or kids or community members?
Not a lot, other than I have from the principal, who seems to, he really enjoys it. And actually I moved from parking outside to being closer so that the kids could see me and be able to come and contact me if I needed to, right to the parking lot in the morning. So you'll see me more instead of parking on the road, which isn't really there for this. I wasn't there to slow the people down, the speeders. That's not my whole purpose. It was there so the kids would know I'm there.
Sure.
And that's why I moved closer. When I talked to the principal, he encouraged me to come up. And so, yeah, other than that, the principal is mostly the one that's seen me and talked to me about it and enjoys it, but no one else really talked to me about it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, in my brief time in Soldovia, I don't know that any other police officers done that since I've been here. So thank you.
Mhm.
Also, the bar graph is cool. I agree that maybe putting out specifics on a more regular basis would be invasive in such a small community, but this is a nice overview.
Okay, thanks, Harmony. Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on to the harbor master, Layla.
Hello. So if you guys read through this, it's been a lot of weather, a lot of snow. This time of the year, we're starting to get vessels situated for spring and before we blow out the annuals. Trying to clean up the wait list. Been working on a harbor rate study. You guys will see that coming up in February. Been quite the project. And last week I started doing water treatment training with Jordan up at the water treatment plant. So it's been fun. The signs are now installed at the top of the ramp and base at the ramp at the harbor, and also signs for Jackaloft. Those are up if any of you guys have been out there at all. Got the holding corporation report done. Got it sent off to National Marine Fisheries. We're still waiting back on a go ahead for the next following season for that. And that's about it. Any questions?
Ms. Harbor Master, can you touch on the recent work done at Jackaloff with the piling
Yes.
hoops?
So a couple days ago, the piling columns, 2 of the broken ones were repaired along with the broken section. They got that finished up. I was hoping to bring you guys pictures and I have not received those yet. And next step is to get another quote for another one that broke in the last storm. So work is being done. It looks a lot better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the maintenance report then on page 16, and I think Jordan is here. Jordan, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Can now, yes.
Okay. I don't have anything in front of me right now. I'm at the water treatment plant trying to get it back online from the backwash today. So here's a few things to mention is that we're starting the training on 2 operators to do the check the residuals and the daily log for the water treatment plant. And Layla's latest and John Kuhn is training's ongoing. One of these days they'll be able to check the residual for me and I'll be able to have a day off. And then from the water treatment plant. And otherwise the maintenance is kind of working at a minimum right now. There's not a lot of projects on the table other than two that have been on the table for almost a year now is the lift station pumps and the boiler project, multi-purpose building. Both have moved along in the last couple months, in that we have the pump is now ready to be lowered down into the wet well whenever there's time and weather and all that business. And then the boiler is still sitting down in the basement waiting to be connected. Been waiting to order parts, that kind of stuff. I've had some trouble with the suppliers trying to get back with me and all that business, but kind of none of it's kind of the multi-purpose building boiler is not exactly a high priority, but we'll get it done sometime next year. And the maintenance crew has been sanding a lot with the rain. Still haven't mounted the sander in the pickup truck. They seem to prefer to sand by hand, and since that's the way they like to do it, I just let them do it. And then since it hasn't snowed much, there hasn't been a lot of snow removal. The maintenance crew's been keeping storm drains open and on the bridge deck in downtown, busting out ice and that kind of stuff. And on the public works side with the water treatment plant, we've had a few leaks around town lately. Latest one was on Saturday. A resident had chosen to leave their house after it froze up, and they didn't have any way of securing the water service. So when it thawed out, it started leaking. And then on Saturday morning, we had used 35,000 gallons more than normal. And I had to drive around and look for water leaks. I found one. And of course, the owner could not be contacted. And so I just took the liberty to shut it off so that we could not waste water. Left a message on his message machine, and he never called back. So hopefully that could be reconciled. But another water leak was found around town on Saturday, also by a contractor. So it was the warm weather is kind of thawing out things that are frozen and making messes. But we're right back on our consumption, right around 60,000 gallons a day, 61,000 gallons a day, 42 gallons a minute, and we're still running on one filter per one per week. And I think we're gonna try to change things up today. Today I washed all 3 filters, and we're gonna have 3 filters ready on standby, and so that if a filter does come dirty on a weekend, I don't have to backwash on a weekend. But that's just a procedural change. The reservoir has had a lot of turnover in it, and turnover is when there's warm water on the bottom that rises to the top, creates a lot of turbidity, and it's causing our filters to get dirtier than faster than normal. So I'm gonna start going up to the reservoir and bottom draining it. Maybe not on a weekly basis, but on a every other week or something, depending on how the turbidity goes. That should improve the way the water plant runs, hopefully. And also, the residents have questions, come up with concerns that they see dirty water, rusty water coming out of their pipes on occasion. And the way you can tell that's scouring from ice going down the mains and the services. So the ice is, forming from the deep cold, and then as weather changes and stuff, the ice is either melting or building in certain parts of the water system. But the ice is what scours the pipes out and gets the rusty colored water. And so people have to be vigilant for their water services, make sure they don't have a situation where their service might freeze up. The water is frozen at the city office, and it'll probably stay that way till May. So even though we discourage people from running their water, when a service is known to freeze, it's recommended right now that to let your water run when you're sleeping, and or if you're gone during the day. So those are the kind of things that we're thinking about lately. The repair projects have been kind of minimal. Repaired some light sensors at the harbor, so if the lights turn off, people like that when the lights turn off during the day. And the guys are keeping the machines greased up and tuned up and ready to go for for snow if it does snow again. Maintenance guys are doing a really good job of working together and keeping that stuff going. And they keep their overtime minimal. They can do get all the snow removal done and during the workday. So there's not a lot of overtime for snow removal, which is working out good. So, any questions?
Go ahead, Harmony.
I was just wondering what bottom draining is, what that entails. Sorry to pick out like the most niche question. What is bottom draining?
We're gonna go up to the reservoir and open the gate at the bottom of the reservoir, and it flushes out the turbid water. There's silt that forms, settles down there, and warm water, and we'll bottom drain that out, and it'll kind of refresh the reservoir. And it's required quarterly, and it's kind of past due right now because of access to the dam. And so I'm going to take my snowmobile up there and get the keys and unlock the gate and bottom drain the reservoir. It usually takes about 10 minutes to drop the turbid water out of the bottom of the reservoir. It's just something that doesn't get done in the winter because of access. But since I have a snow machine, I'll go up there and do it. And it'll make the water plant run a lot better.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. Anybody else have any questions?
May Councilmember Sweat comment on Operator Cameron's report?
Yes. go
I
ahead.
just wanted to make sure that folks saw on page 18, he so very helpfully compiled a comparison of how 2020 water consumption compared to 2021. And you'll see that we have been able to go down in consumption or annual gallons used. And it's important to remember it's treated water. So those are expensive gallons to just be going down the drain, so to speak. So we went from 31 million plus to 29 million plus. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much to Jordan for putting together this really helpful information and keeping the city running behind the scenes and up there at the water treatment plant. I kind of refer to it as the Enchanted City or the Emerald City. And he's like the Wizard of Oz up there. And if council ever wanted to go up there and see what he's doing and bringing the harbor master in and operator Kuhn in, it would be great to have you up there just so you could see all of the steps that are involved just in running that thing on one day. And then if something doesn't go according to plan or there's a kerfuffle, how much time it takes to figure out that whole system. So I know there's a council member that really likes airplanes and how airplanes work. And I encourage anyone who's into mechanical or just wants to understand water consumption in a municipal organization in general, the water treatment plant is the place for you. There's a lot of, as Jordan says, tinkering that you can do up there. So if even if there was a member of the public or a couple of people that wanted to go up there and see all of the hard work that he and the team are putting in, that would be great to help make that happen. So just wanted to make sure you saw that comparison and give attention to the Public Works and Maintenance Department for all their good work so far throughout the year. Thank you, Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Okay, thanks everybody for your reports. There's no other questions. Then we'll move on to number 2, discussion loan for road grader and City of Soldovia snow removal policy, and that's on page 19. And Rachel, you're gonna,
Yes,
Talk
I will
about
take
that.
the lead. Thank you so
okay, I'll
much.
leave it to you.
So the first topic as part of this discussion is just giving the council an update on the acquisition of the new road grader. So council gave their blessing. Yes, we want to proceed with acquiring the new grader. We want to add a V plow and we want a warranty included in the original quote and gave the thumbs up to pursue securing the grader. CAT Financial Corporation or Financial Services Corporation approved the city for a Diamond Standard lease to own loan. But as a matter of a good business standard, I went out to a few other financial institutions that were recommended to me from the Alaska Municipal Bond Bank and asked if they gave loans because it would be nice to see if there were competitive interest rates or different packages that the city could pursue aside from Caterpillar. And the short answer is no. Out of the 4 financial institutions, which included First National Bank, Wells Fargo, North Rim, and Key Bank, they at this time cannot issue or offer the city with a loan to cover the cost of the grader acquisition. So the only option at this time that I could find is the Caterpillar Financial Services governmental leasing program. And so in order to participate in that program with Caterpillar, council needs to pass a resolution agreeing to the terms that they're going to present. And I had the city attorney review the agreement and other documents, and he said that everything looks good to form. But I don't want to bring that resolution before the council until I have the terms and the final interest rate set by Caterpillar, which they won't do until the piece of equipment is within 30 days of shipping to Soldovia. So I just wanted to give you the update as far as a loan, pursuing a loan for the new grader. And then additionally, NC Machinery is the company we're purchasing the grader from using Caterpillar Financial Services funding. They said that due to supply chain issues, the grader is now not scheduled to leave the factory until May, which would mean a late June delivery. Initially, they were aiming for February, but because of, I'm assuming, COVID and all the other disruptions that big industry has been facing, we now won't have it until June. I'm crossing my fingers that I hope it happens in June because I think it'd be great to feature the road grader in some of our 4th of July activities, help with road maintenance in general over the summer. So I'll keep council up to date and I'm available for any questions you might have on this topic.
Thank you, Rachel.
You bet.
Anybody have any questions? No questions?
Rachel,
Hey, Jordan.
Go ahead, Jordan.
sorry to interrupt. So you mean June of this year?
Correct. June of this year.
Oh, okay. So that'll help things out a lot because it'll be, they'll be able to get the guys trained up on it before it snows, which would be really good. Thank you.
You bet. I was actually even hoping for it to be here in February so that you could even have the new grader here with the trainer, because Caterpillar sends a technician to show how to operate it while there was some snow or ice, but we can do without and hopefully make the training process more incremental.
Okay, moving on, since there are no further questions on this issue, we're going to go to comments of the audience. Do we have anybody in the audience? Did you?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time.
Did you have anything else, Heidi?
I believe there's a second part to that discussion, but that would be a question for our city manager.
Yes.
Oh, snow removal.
Snow, yes.
Sorry about that.
And
We need to go back and talk about the snow removal policy.
yes, and
Rachel?
I didn't want to obligate operator Cameron past 5 because I know he's been up there working hard, but Jordan, if you'd like to join us, it'd be wonderful to have you and as part of the discussion. But I wanted to bring before the council the discussion on how the city of Soldovia removes snow. It's been quite an interesting process. Something that was discovered is that we have a plan. It was adopted in 1992. We found it in a file. And so that's brought before you and the public to review. Some of the highlights that were in that 1992 plan included the fact that the city crews waited until 6 inches of snow had accumulated. They also would wait until heavy snow was finished before plowing. The city would make every effort not to create berms and to notify the city if there was an impassable berm, and that they would remove it as soon as possible. The city will not move snow from the entire frontage of a piece of property. You cannot move snow into city streets. You could have the snow, if you do that, put back onto your lot, or you could be fined for it. And then there are streets in Soldovia that are too dangerous to plow, like Alder Street, which is why we put cones there so that people don't go driving down that street. So that's the plan that the city adopted in 1992. I didn't search for corresponding legislation, so I don't know if it was passed by council or passed by administration, but I wanted to make sure council saw that. And then looking through our code, there's only 3 sections in our code that address snow. So let's just say this 1992 plan was more administrative. There aren't actually any other policies besides these 3. First one is parking during snow prohibited. So you can't park on an existing street or right away, and it's prohibited from November 1st through April 30th from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. But it only applies if there's 4 inches or more of snow. And you can get fined $75 if you do this. Second section of code that mentions snow is that our refuse team, our trash collectors, they don't have to pick up the snow if you have basically obstructed access for them to get to the containers. And then the third one is in relation to the harbor. During periods of snow accumulation, the owners of vehicles that are parked out at the harbor parking lot, they have to follow the direction of the harbor master. And if you don't, then it could result in the removal of the vehicle at the owner's expense. So 1992 plan, that's what we've been following, at least kind of internally. Here are the 3 sections that were included in code. Now let's discuss how the city is currently doing it, because I think there's some confusion from the public and in the city for how this happens. So in recent years, the city of Soldovia has followed suit with snow removal policies that are in line with the state of Alaska. So for example, similar to the state, the city follows a prioritization list, and there's a draft included in the packet because we would like council's blessing of this prioritization list at a future meeting. And it shows an order of priority, what city roads get cleared first, which means that if you're living on a lower priority road, you're going to get service later on because the city's trying to hit areas like the school, the airport, multi-purpose building for first responders. So that's one part. Second part, city staff are not responsible for clearing private driveways or berms. So staff do their best to minimize the berms, but we're not going to do a special trip, especially if it's not an impassable berm. If it's just a little snow in your driveway, the city won't come out there to do it. So just trust the process has been, let the city know if it's impassable, but it's something that if you want to keep costs down and keep snow removal efficient, it's just not part of standard practice, standard operating procedures to remove berms and driveways. Staff store snow as shown in the enclosed map so that you can see how important it is to have city property, and sometimes private owners allow the city to store snow on their property because it helps speed up snow removal, as well as shows the importance of retaining public property for snow removal. It's always been this way too, that you can't push your private property snow into the city road because that can obstruct access, especially if staff just came through and cleared it. And so if you do that, it's the same thing. We can charge a fine or move that snow back onto the resident's property. Currently, the Public Works Operator 2 directs the crew on snow plowing and their efforts that are made to reduce overtime hours to in turn minimize costs incurred due to snow removal. This means minimize plowing on weekends, evenings, and holidays. And then important to note that the state of Alaska sands the city right-of-ways, and we help too. And then the city removes snow from some state right-of-ways, and that's according to an agreement that we have in place that's also in your packet. So when looking at 1992, and now we're in 2022, we need to make some updates so that the policy that was formally put in place aligns with how things are actually done, and so that we give transparent information to the public for how the service is conducted. So there's a draft policy document that I'm hoping that we can get into discussion about tonight. And let's see, there's a bunch of enclosures. So in your packet, there's the 1992 City of Soldovia snow removal policy. Then you have the draft prioritization list, the map of the snow storage locations, an updated draft of what the 2022 onward snow removal policy would be. And then there's examples from the state of Alaska so that you can see what we're basing our information off of. We have the state of Alaska winter roadmap prioritization for you to consider. We have their road maintenance questions and answers because the state definitely gets grilled on this stuff too. Hey, there's a berm in my driveway. Are you going to come clear it? The state's policy is no. But they do the best similar to the city of minimizing that. There's a blog, an additional blog that provides guidance on driveways and berms. Then there's the Alaska state statutes because they put it into statute regarding berms and driveways that you can't obstruct access to state right-of-ways or they won't come remove berms from your driveway. And then something else that's really important to note as well is that the city of Soldovia has a few substandard roads, which makes it really tricky to plow and remove snow. So take, for example, the historic boardwalk, also known as Bay Street. You can't drive a grader on that. You can't drive a loader on that. You have to either use the backhoe or manual removal. It takes a long time. So that's just one example. There's another example where the road is 15 feet and there's another one that's 8 feet wide. Our equipment can't safely accommodate that. So that poses challenges to the city and removing snow from those areas. So I wanted you guys to see the road widths requirements for the state of Alaska, as well as what the borough requires for a width that a road should be. And then there's a plat with an example of what I'm talking about here in Soldovia, where you can see the width of the road. Also included in your packet is a City of Homer snow removal policy, which is what I based in addition to the state of Alaska documents, our new updated snow policy for the city of Soldovia. And then just so that council could see the understanding that we have between the state of Alaska and the city for road maintenance, that's also included in your packet. So I know it's a lot of information, but we have some time before the regular council meeting. And I'm hoping that with Operator Cameron attending, we can help council understand this essential service and make it continue to make it really great for the public and for the city. Thank you so much.
Jordan, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, there's a list of priorities, and they're not set in stone. So it was brought up, about the city dock, and the city dock is always one of those deals where it sits unused for weeks, and then on occasion people need to use it, and of course, we try to keep the city dock clear to snow and it passable, and also we prioritize the upkeep on the dock depending on the ferry. And if the ferry's planned to be in, we'll either sand the dock or plow the dock or whatever it takes so that the dock workers and the vehicles can transit the dock. There's also private outfits business that use the dock, and if there's snow on the dock and it still hasn't been removed because it was not a priority, if it's known that there's going to be some work being done on the dock, we can definitely make time to clear the dock so it's usable. It's still going to stay down low on the priorities list because it's lightly used. There's only a handful of folks that use it, and they don't really have a priority over the rest of town. So the city dock's priority is for when it's going to be used, and then otherwise it's kind of low on the priority till we have time to clear it. It doesn't mean that if there's 6 or 8 inches of snow on the dock, it's not going to get plowed while somebody needs it, but it's still going to get used or plowed. So the other thing is sanding of streets that cannot be accessed by the state. They're going to be sanded by the city, and our schedule is not the same as the state's. So the state has a call out time, and it doesn't align with the roads. The state's call out time kind of aligns with the airport. And so a lot of times, since the state's call out time is 4 hours and they need to go clear the airport, it only takes 2 hours. With the next 2 hours, they'll drive around and clear roads. Well, our call out time is not in line with the airport. So that's why there will be a lot of times where the city is not going to have the streets cleared and there's snow on the ground, but the state roads have been cleared or the airport's been cleared. So that's something you got to kind of take into consideration, is that the airport has to be cleared any day that it's flyable, which includes Saturday and Sunday. And so if there's 4 inches of snow, fresh snow sitting on the roads on Saturday morning, and the state went out and blasted out the Jackaloff Bay Road and the airport real quick, the city is not going to go out and clear the snow. They're passable, even with the smallest of cars could drive around in 4 inches of snow, and it's just that's minimized overtime, and that's always something that is quite noticeable. The road width has a lot to do on the priority list. There's roads that are substandard, and what that means is the equipment, when it goes down them, the possibility of damaging property is real high or damaging the machine. And so the conditions have to be just right to be able to maneuver whatever machine it is in certain areas, or just minimize till it's there's a comment from the public that says, hey, this road's getting kind of narrow. Can you see what you could do to clear it out? And those are perfectly good ways, for the public to get a hold of maintenance, and we'll go and see what we can do to clear them out. We're not really try to do what we can in the piece of equipment. And so like Bay Street or the boardwalk, we're going to do with the backhoe, and the backhoe barely fits down the boardwalk. And what's end up happening is there's tchotchke hanging over rails and planter boxes and stuff that are getting bumped. I personally broke part of the handrail, and I'll have to repair it this spring. But that's, if residents want to have a clear boardwalk, that's, the maintenance crew is not going to go and shovel a path for people down the boardwalk. So that's just the way it is. Residents are more than welcome to, do what they can to help keep the boardwalk open. If they want to shovel or use their little four-wheeler and plow a little path so people can walk through, I have to say that's probably okay. At your own risk, of course. And so, there's also some other substandard alleyways that people have made sure that their corner of their property is is marked, and they have piles of lumber and stakes sticking out of the ground. And when they're buried with snow, the equipment hooks them and liable to puncture a tire or tear something off the machine or tear up the person's rock pile or pile lumber or stakes sticking out of the ground or tchotchke. And so the closer people are to the right of way, the more difficult it is to maneuver something that has a minimum width of 10 foot to go down. So, the mention of the berms and driveways and on road property frontages, we, like Rachel said, we try to minimize making berms, but we can't go and clean up every last little bit of snow berm off somebody's property. It's you get to where the machine is running, full width of the machine on the person's property to clean every little bit of snow out. And if we were to do that to everybody's property, that wouldn't be. I don't think that'd be fair, because there's, you just can't clear out everybody's driveway. And some people have real long frontages, and when you have 100-foot long frontage, that's kind of the risk you take owning that, of keeping it clear. And so the best thing I could suggest is don't have your snow removal contractor come till after the city is done. Not that we, are going to leave large berms on people's property. At the same time, we try to minimize it, but you can't get it all. So people get really frustrated, but it's kind of the way it is. It's a lot of work pushing snow a quarter mile down the road with a piece of equipment. And as time goes along, less and less of the frontages are available to push snow or to berm it up or to pile it or whatever. And so you're going to end up having more berms. I don't care for berms, but they're kind of that's what happens when it snows. Any other questions that people could think of? Try asking them now.
Go ahead, Harmony.
Hey, Jordan, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Thank you for covering all of that. I was wondering about on the top of the boardwalk, that where the right past Vivian's, there's those spruce trees and they drip and they create a huge ice slick. And it starts like the toe of it starts there where Walt seems to park and then goes down to the other side just before Walt's. So snow removal aside, when the guys are out with their bucket and their shovel, maybe they could toss, put it on their list to toss some sand there at the top of the boardwalk. I'm sure it's on your list. I'm sure you guys do it, but I've been down and shoveled a couple of times when some elderly people were coming and going and needed a clear walking path, but that ice mound right there gets pretty crazy under that tree.
Yeah, and they try to do that, and of course it's, they might need like a little checklist because we were just talking about today the places we need to get, and we didn't think about that one.
Right. Yeah, you guys do a lot. I'm not trying to.
No, it's good to point out. That's one that I forget about, and it gets slick, but that another comment I have to make is that the sand and the gravel is for vehicles, so that vehicles could drive safely. And there's going to be a lot of slick spots out there, and even that we can't sand all the places for foot traffic to the level that the roads are. Anytime there is some area that's slick, it's definitely good to let the maintenance crew know so that they can go and give that area a little special attention, like the boardwalk and
Sure.
maybe parking lots in other areas.
I'm sure it's down to dirt now, like everything else at this time, but that top approach ascending down towards the boardwalk is like usually pretty bad, right where that tree is. But anyways, sorry again. Thank you for all the information. You guys do an excellent job, and we appreciate you.
Okay, thanks, Harmony.
Bobby, you do have a council member with her hand raised.
Pardon me?
You have a council member, Swick, with her hand raised as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Jen. Okay, yeah. Jen, go ahead. Sorry, I don't have my glasses, so I can't see.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the dock a little more. Not that there's any complaints about snow removal on it, and not that this draft or anything is going to change what's happening. I just didn't really like the fact that it was listed on there as low priority. I mean, I'm not going to say that it needs to be high priority in any way. Obviously, I have some personal interests here. Can it not be plowed at the same time you're going down Dock Street and just finish it then? Does that happen that way anyway? I'm still here.
Yeah, the city dock can't be finished while Dock Street because there's plenty of maneuvering that's required on the dock, and it's best done with the smaller machine. And so when it comes to opening up the roads first thing in the morning, Dock Street, we usually just widen it out so that the cars aren't parking in in the snow, and then try to get the city dock later on in the afternoon instead of first thing in the morning when Dock Street is opened up. Dock Street usually takes about 15 minutes to open up, and the city dock requires careful attention, and you can't just whip it out real quick. And it's better done with a bucket, with the backhoe, instead of a plow on the loader or the grader. So that's kind of one of the reasons it's not high on the priority.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that you needed different equipment, I guess. I don't know. I just seeing it on paper listed as a low priority was just, I guess, anti our comprehensive plan of wanting to sustain fisheries. And that's like our number one economic goal. And we're gonna, on paper, it makes it look like we're neglecting that infrastructure. I know we're not. It's just, I don't know. It just didn't look well on paper, even though I know it's getting handled in real life. I don't know. Maybe nothing needs to change. Yeah, just my comments.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Okay, anyone else? Rachel?
I just want to add to Councilmember Swick, we for sure can amend that bullet point because you can't really see it, but it is a draft document. And I really like how Jordan commented on the fact that, let me see if I can find my notes here. It was something to the effect of, if it's requested, because they're not thinking about it on a regular basis, because as it said in the top, that, you know, the city road should be cleared for the greatest overall community benefit. And for sure, we support fisheries and economic development, but the priority is to clear and open the roads. But Jordan had made a comment earlier on that if it's not a ferry day, but the dock is needed, just letting the city know, hey, this is coming up, because they're focused on other things. We could incorporate language like that to address those feelings, Councilmember Swick, because I can see how you got there too.
Right. I mean, it just looks, and I don't want to say that, you know, if we end up with somebody else in charge and they're looking at this paper saying, hey, no, it's not a ferry day, you don't need to go out there type thing. I don't, you know, hopefully no one's going to refer back to the document and say that's a lower priority, we don't need to do that. I mean, even though we know it's not, it could be interpreted that way somewhere down the line if they're looking at this plan 30 years from now, whatever. Yeah.
Right, because it was
Thanks.
30 years since we last looked at it. Maybe sooner. It's probably been sooner, but you know, it's nice to have an updated plan and priority list that we're going to post on our website after council gives approval of the process for doing snow removal in Soldovia. And then I wanted to share with council really quick some budget figures here. So I included the note that Finance Officer Yeager provided about this data, which was, you know, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt or a grain of snow, because not only did the amount of snow vary each year, there's also different pairings of maintenance crew with different pay rates and different amounts of experience. And that all leads to different levels of efficiency in the plowing process. So for example, in FY20, both public works and maintenance staff members were new to plowing, and that added additional hours until they have figured out an efficient pattern and process. So you can see for FY20, and we try to include snow. We can't find snow levels in inches for Soldovia, so we found data for Homer. But in FY19, Homer snowfall was 76 inches. We had 79, let's say 80 regular hours, and we had 63 overtime hours, and we cost to operate snow $3,500. That's what our finance officer was able to pull out of, I believe, either QuickBooks or Excel. Then in FY20, we had over 100 inches of snow, 204 regular hours, and 154 overtime hours, and that cost 10 grand. FY21, again, we have overtime hours of 68 and regular hours of 233. So now that brings us up to over 8,000. So for this year, operating at the way that we are. We're reducing overtime costs for the city. And it's been, as I've been told by some Soldovians, a record snow year. I've been told by some Soldovians, this is how I remembered snow being 20 years ago. And so if we had snow levels that were more kindred to what we've seen in the past, maybe the cost for this year wouldn't be as high. But operator Cameron has been working with his crew to significantly reduce overtime. So last year we had about 70, and so far we have 20 for the first half of the year, which is great. And then we have, who knows what the weather has in store for us. So it's hard to ballpark where we're going to fall. But by having more conservative measures where we reduce the time that we're out there, but ensure that we're efficient, prioritizing the greatest good for snow clearing, we can keep this really significant essential service costs down for the city. So I just wanted to provide that data to council. And it's another way of saying thank you to the Public Works Department for keeping in mind budget costs to ensure that we're not having high overtime fees.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, George.
I was trying really hard to keep my mouth shut, but I can't resist. We're here to kind of make political decisions, and I think that's the last possible best forum for what we're talking about. The guy that's running this program is obviously doing a very good job. He has a very good plan, and we should follow along with his plan, not try us to influence what he's doing because of perhaps some complaint of a constituent. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
That's
Madam-
Okay. Oh, are there, Jordan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, madam. Another thing that really helps with the overtime is that there's 3 operators. And so it's kind of the first time that I know of that there's been 3 pieces of snow removal equipment being used in a single day at the same time. And so it really helps that, the 2 maintenance guys start at 9, and on occasion, one of them will come in an hour, maybe 2 hours early and help get the school opened up and fire and EMS and all that. And then we have, operator Kroon, who's able to come on at 9, and those guys are able to do, clean up around town. And then I'm able to, and with my water duties, I'm also able to take a piece of equipment and push back berms and piles and clear the water treatment road. And that frees those guys up a lot. And that's part of the reason that they're a lot more efficient. And then we're storing machines inside. So there's reduced idle time. So probably a considerable amount of fuel and time is being saved by not having the machines sitting outside needing to be warmed up, and they're ready to fueled up and ready to go, and just go out the door and start pushing snow, and instead of half an hour lost in the morning trying to warm machines up and all that business. So having the 3-man crew, even though 2 guys are part-time, it's still a lot more efficient. I think I don't know if you were to have two experienced operators, I don't think they could be more efficient than 3. So I'm really happy at how it works.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. So are there any other questions?
Yeah, Councilmember Swick.
Go ahead.
I got a couple questions for Jordan, if that's okay. Do you know how much that backhoe weighs?
Oh, I think he might be gone.
Ah. Okay.
Okay, did you have any other questions?
Oh,
for
yeah,
him?
yeah, I actually had several questions for Jordan, and then I have some questions about the drafts. there were some parts of the previous document from, what was it, 79, the original document?
Oh, 1992.
92. Yeah, so the drafts for the new draft for page 28, 29, 30, and 31, correct? Because
For the new one, it's, 31 through 32.
31 through 32.
For the city of Soldovia snow removal policy, and then the old one in that typewriting looking font, that's page 26 through 28.
The old one is 26 through 28, and then the new one is
31.
through just page 31.
31 and 32.
Okay. Okay. The comment I had for Jordan was, actually, I really appreciate his conservative efforts this year, and I've noticed that myself, and I don't have any complaints about the snow removal at all. I think they're doing a good job. The only thing that I was concerned, I have some concerns about that backhoe on the boardwalk and the weight of it. I don't know if the tires are loaded on that backhoe and the city's liability there. Some significant concerns with it being on that old dock. Number one, what's the weight of that machine, and are the tires loaded on it or not? Meaning full of water, full of liquid, glycol or whatever. And then the other question I had was whether the 1 ton that's owned by the city is a 2-wheel drive unit or a 4-wheel drive unit.
Writing it down in case I just
Yeah,
texted
no,
him.
I get it. We can ask him too later. It doesn't really, it's not that big a deal. There was the point, I didn't see anything in the proposed drafts about, that in the previous policy, they discussed not plowing until there was 6 inches of snow. And I just was hoping that some of that conservative measures would still be in the new policy.
I think it's actually 4 inches in the old
Yeah,
one. And
Yeah,
6
I mean,
in the new one.
whatever it is, I mean, I'm not going to argue over 2 inches,
Yes,
but I
Councilmember-
think it's
Councilmember Kennedy, it is. So under the new snow removal policy, it says, when are streets plowed? How is the city of Soldovia snow removal priority list used? And it says the city crews usually wait until a total of 6 inches of snow have fallen before they start removing snow.
And you're looking at the old one or the new one? I'm
This is the new
It's the
guy.
new one.
Okay. I'm having trouble getting this document so big, this computer's slow. So there we go. Okay.
Okay, are there any other
Nope, I'm good.
questions? We've
Thank
got to
you.
kind of move this along.
I'm back. Sorry.
Can those questions be asked at another time, like tomorrow or something?
For sure.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Should we go to public?
pardon?
Should we go to public?
Just hang on a minute. I'm going to, yeah. So if there's no other questions, we're going to back up because now we need to see if there's any comments from the public again.
Yes, Madam Chair, I do see a hand raised by Miss Laurel Hiltz.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Laurel.
Hi, can you hear me okay, Bobby?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I really appreciate the map that shows the difficult areas for plowing. And because I live along shoreline and do go along that route, walking or driving that goes down Block Street, that was interesting to note that won't be plowed. And so that just draws to mind areas like that and areas like Harmony mentioned at the top of the boardwalk, et cetera. It really, for walkers, especially in inclement weather, having the city lights all be in working order and properly placed as opposed to those that have been removed really matters, especially when people are having to navigate snow pile up, which is normal and natural, but darkness of hours. So along with that, just please, anything that can be done to continue to actively engage with completing the lighting that needs to be done and replacing the especially at the top of the boardwalk would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laurel. Anybody else, Heidi?
Yeah, can I add to that, Madam?
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
A lot of the streetlights that were removed were done as an economy measure by the city to save money. And so it had to, the lights that have been removed, it would have to go back to the city to see if they want the streetlights put back in. I think the one at the top of the boardwalk was Bay Street was removed on purpose to save money. And there's a handful of other street light locations in town that were removed. So if there's one burned out, it's be sure to notify somebody, but some of the street lights have been removed on purpose.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. Okay, then, is there anybody else?
I'm not seeing any more hands raised at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
So I just wanted to give the follow-up to council. This will come before the council through either a resolution or as a formal discussion topic in which a motion of support will be asked for, because the city does receive quite a number of comments about how we provide the service. And so it's great to have the council support, as well as providing the information in a transparent manner, like the prioritization list, just so that the community can understand we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. And then we can also update language concerning the municipal dock and have this policy recognized by the council and then put on our website, and then hopefully mailed out, similar to what we've been doing recently through PO boxes. So that way the public can receive the information and we can receive feedback as well from the community. So that's all I have. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So if there's nothing else, then do we need a motion? No. Meeting is adjourned then at 5:52. Ready?
And for those of you online that are joining us for the next meeting, we're going to go ahead and stop the recording and stop the live stream, but you can stay online with us and we'll start the next meeting here in about 10 minutes.